did see, there's a lot of questions about Nick Caserio and the way that this roster is put together. You criticized, the kind of the ways in which they believe so strongly in the talent that they have when they get out there on this field to be like, well, you just got to go win. And what happens if you just don't have the guys to win? That, again, comes back to Nick Caserio and the way that he's built this.
Right.
And I saw someone on the YouTube page say, well, what happened? Y'all, he was y'all's GM GOAT 2 years ago. Y'all are wishy-washy. And that didn't sit right with me. I'm going to be honest.
So we got to stay on that boat?
That's my thing.
Going on?
2 years is not long enough to see things like, again, depending on how you decide to view it. But there's a number of things within the Nick Caserio tenure that you could look at and you go, yeah, when you add these up, there's even make a little bit of derision for the general manager of this team. Like, you can even look up, just recently I was watching, it was Sunday. I was watching highlights and watching some locker room video of Stephon Diggs being real helpful to, mind you, the second best odds guy for MVP, Drake May. Stephon Diggs out there scoring a touchdown for him, talking about being all supporting him. You traded for that dude. You shortened his contract when you didn't need to. You gave up a big asset for him, and then he ends up walking and not really giving you that much value. Like, that's one of those moves that probably
he's looking real good this year
on kind of the higher side of the moves in favor of Nick Caserio. Talk less of the way that they handle the offensive line, some other things. No, there's some reason. And I think within the time frame, there's definitely a lot of things that have been shown that you could change your opinion on.
Well, not only change your opinion, but even 2 years ago, when we were all, buzzing about what he did on draft day and some of these other things, even then, I don't think we did a show where we said, yeah, he's perfect. I mean,
have anybody on the show said build him a statue?
Yes. 2 years ago, if you'd have asked me, is he a good or bad general manager for this organization? If you had to go with just one answer, I would say good. Today, I'm not so sure. But 2 years ago, there were still some questionable things he did. You remember how irritated I got about Mark Ingram? You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
He said, you know what, Saints, I'm going to do you a favor. I'll go ahead and give you Mark Ingram after acquiring him and everything. I mean, there are always warts on everybody, and that's to be expected. But good or bad, 2 years ago, I would have sure, because it's just an accumulation of things.
And see, that's why it's so hard to sit there, because a lot of people want us to give us a grade right now what he did after night one of draft night.
Right.
It's just like, man, it's hard. Sometimes it take a couple years to see, but in the moment, I felt like the Kenyon Green. I thought that was an okay pick.
Yeah,
because they needed some offensive line help.
Yeah, and they moved up to get him.
Yeah, but 2 years later, like that wasn't a good move. So we should have the right to change our mind a little bit.
Change.
Yeah.
Things do change. I want to stay here then. We'll get to the C.J. Stroud. I apologize. We will get to that. Again, we got 4 hours and we're here till 2 p.m. But I want to sit here because I'm trying to figure out, like, this is a team and this is a year right now that we're trying to come to terms with what it is. And in doing that, you have to try and figure how you feel about various different portions, right? And Nick Caserio is one of those, especially on a day that is a talent acquisition, milestone. It's trade deadline day today. Where are you right now with Nick Caserio as general manager? Because we've had a number of people hit us on the text line, which again is 713-572-4610, and ask, if you were Callan Hanna, like, are you applying heat to Nick Caserio? Like, where do you sit with the tenure of Nick Caserio, or not even the tenure, but where do you sit with him holding that position right this moment?
Well, I just said I don't know if I would say he's good or bad. I will say this. I think he's trending down. I think he's absolutely trending down, given some of the trades that we now know were mistakes. I mean, some of the draft picks, the Kenyon Green, et cetera, given some of the moves that have not been made, given some of the moves that were made this year on the offensive line. The philosophy of rather than go heavy, either spend big or go heavy in the draft on the offensive line, instead, he brought in guys that are just not good. I mean, tell me how that wouldn't change anybody's mind. Like not just one, not just two, not just three, but at least 4 offensive linemen that you can say, what? No, that didn't work out, right? So I would say trending down. And then the other reason I would say trending down is this whole philosophy of his guys, his way. I don't care what anybody says, about Nick Cayley and such, and bringing in his guys, and where I'm going to go, the Patriot and John Carroll thing. I just can't get over, and maybe this is on me. Maybe I'm just dead wrong, and these are the greatest coaches in the history of football, or will prove to be. You can't tell me that when a a defense like this and a coach like DeMeco Ryans is in place and established, you can't tell me that of all the resumes you get and all the recommendations you get from all your connections around the NFL, the best dudes for the job all went to John Carroll or have Patriots connection. Can't tell me that. I mean, I know people have their tendencies to, to familiarity and friends in the business and all that. But man, this is the NFL. If you didn't know already, you've got to find the best guys for that job.
And one thing I want to highlight, because as always want to try and be as fair as possible. I think that sometimes we have to stop and recollect and remember that talent acquisition is not going to be 100% accuracy proposition. Sure. It's not going to necessarily be an 80, 70% probabilities that we get, that we applaud all the damn time. Howie Roseman has a number of stinkers in there, but it is just covered up by the tremendous wins that happen in there. So I want to acknowledge that, to be fair. With that being said, I think the thing that gets me is something that it feels like the words that we've used a lot recently. Sometimes it feels like there's a little bit of arrogance in the way that this happens. Yes. I don't expect you to be perfect. Again, I ain't nobody's parent, but I got two brothers that are 13, 15 years younger than me. So sometimes I feel like I play one on TV, so to say. And there's times where I'm like, I don't need you to be perfect, but I need you to acknowledge when you're wrong and fix it. And at times I wonder at the agility of this organization and this staff to do that. And honestly, that's on multiple levels, because we're seeing that now with the coaching staff in a way that's frustrating. But it seems like that also happens to some degree at the general manager. And that would be the thing that is more frustrating to me than anything.
Yeah. And I know DeMeco Ryans is a big part of, they look in the mirror and they see something that's not there, in terms of pounding the ball. We've talked about it, and you get down to the goal line and, you've got to want those situations, which I don't disagree with, but we're just going to power our way past these guys. Yes, that's largely a DeMeco Ryans thing, but it's also a reflection of the philosophy of offensively that Nick Caserio clearly has a penchant for. In terms of run the ball, it's all that stuff. They it's something that he's grown up in the NFL, so to speak. So yeah, this guy has done some really good things. We wouldn't be here without that.
Correct.
Wouldn't even be arguing this, and C.J. Stroud and all that stuff.
And a willingness of the brain trust to have more, more patience with Jalen Petrie to find him a role.
Huge credit.
where he's able to succeed. They found some young talented players, even at times where we are clamoring for them to utilize those young talented players that they've acquired, because they are showing an ability for talent. So I don't want to be unfair with this. I just want to kind of figure out where are we at this point.
No, huge credit for those things. I mean, we try to be fair on this show, no matter what you might think or don't think or whatever. We try to be fair, and I'm being fair. It's huge credit for all those things. It's good that we can complain, because we're in this position to complain because of Nick Caserio largely.
Sure.
But he is trending down in terms of the things that are now that you're at this level, and you fancied yourself a Super Bowl contender by all accounts, and these things are happening largely because of Nick Caserio.
So I think where it feels like we're settling is he is not in immediate danger of losing his job or anything, right? There is a level of bringing them out of what was a very dark era in the Texans' time. But now as the expectations shift forward, there's still a different additional level, and I think there's a little bit more heat than there had previously. I don't say a little bit more. There's a lot more heat and urgency to get this thing right sooner rather than later.